What additional risk exists for companies trading overseas? So there are several risks for 14 marks. We can add to say risks associated with trading overseas include the legal risk. So engaging in international trade will demand for comprehensive understanding of various legal frameworks across different jurisdictions. So the discrepancies in property rights, custom regulations are inevitable. So we have what we call the legal risk. We have also a risk called the currency exposure risk. This, in the realm of international markets, and exposure to fluctuating currencies, exchange rates, can jeopardize a company's profitability. So to mitigate this, you need to employ a number of financial tools like forward contracts. Somebody mentioned that, futures, options, to hedge against such risks. We also have non-payment risk. When you're dealing with international partners, it is possible to be susceptible to such risk of non-payment. So to mitigate this kind of risk, you need to implement trade credit insurance, which will serve as a safeguard against potential defaults. Also, it will ensure that the degree of financial security in the case of disputes on non-payment is handled. We also have political risk. This is inevitable. Adherence to the adverse and often intricate international laws, regulations, crucial for businesses that are operating on cross borders. So there should be awareness of product legality across different jurisdictions. So it is essential to avoid potential entanglements. Political stability, the shifting regulatory landmarks must be factored in when you're dealing with trade across borders. How do you mitigate political risk? If I may ask, because these ones I'm talking about forward contracts. How do we mitigate political risk? Basically by getting to understand the political landscape of a particular country and compliance. Certain countries have certain political conflicts. For instance, if the South African or Zambian track is operating with their political conflicts. So you need to understand and be aware of the legal entanglements that are there between the countries. Adherence basically is one of the key solutions. There's one risk that was not talked about, which is a cultural risk. We understand that different countries have different cultures. Local customs need to be understood fully. Their values, so that you tailor the product and the marketing to align with cultural sensitivities. This would be very essential. Examples, we have Muslim communities. So if you're dealing with red meat, what are their culture and the kinds of clothes, you know. And there's also what we call product risk. So pricing dynamics, product design, packaging, distribution channels, these ones demand for consideration, which will align to specific requirements and preferences of international markets. So understanding the cost structures and the ability to recover costs within a target market is crucial before engaging. We also have operational risk. Operational risk, so effective management of internal operational risk is very important to ensuring that there is a seamless functional of international trade. So you need to mitigate these risks by ensuring that there's cost efficiency. I've talked about the legal risk, foreign currency risk. Okay, so this is regarding the types of risks that are there and how to mitigate those risks. We also talked about part C, why a company is willing to trade overseas despite these particular hurdles. So inevitably, market expansion. So all companies have a goal in their objectives to expand. So accessing international markets will provide opportunities for growth and may not be available in a domestic market, like within Zambia only. TradeKings is doing very fine. It's gone many countries who allow countries to tap in new customers. The second reason why, despite this risk, company would want to go abroad is diversification of revenue streams. So trading overseas will help to diversify companies' revenue sources, reducing single dependence on the domestic market, where thereby spreading the risk across multiple regions. We know we have different economic states of nature. The other reason is economies of scale. So when you're operating on a global scale, it can lead to economies of scale, thereby allowing companies to benefit from cost efficiencies, increase production, improve competitiveness, like DSTVs. So the other reason is the access to raw materials. So international trade will allow access to materials like technology, expertise that may not be available in a domestic country like Zambia. So it will enable companies to enhance their competitive advantage, which is a point on its own. Competitive advantage is a point. So competitive advantage, understanding the presence of international markets will help companies to gain competitive edge over its rivals, so allowing them to build brand recognition and also to establish a global presence. So these are the reasons why a company engage in international trade. So please, these are 425 marks. So what risks have we talked about? Political risk, economic risk, legal risk, cultural risk, operational risks. These are risks that are associated with trading overseas. Political, it says, includes the changes in government, the regulations, the policies that may come because of difference in government. Economic risk, the fluctuations in foreign markets, such as changes in interest rates. So this is foreign exchange risk. In short, it's the same as economic risk. Legal risk, which involves compliance with the foreign laws, adherence to their legal system. Cultural risk, which looks at the differences in cultural practices, language barriers, consumer preferences. Operational risks are associated with managing the supply chain, domestic distribution, workforce to align with the foreign nation. How do we eliminate these risks? Number one, by forward contracts. What are forward contracts? They involve locking the exchange rates for future transactions to protect against these fluctuations. So you make an agreement ahead of time that this value with foreseeable future will be traded at this, regardless of the fluctuations in the currency. Other ways to mitigate is what we call currency swaps, where companies will enter into agreements to swap currencies at an agreed upon rate for a specified period of time. So this will mitigate the impact of the exchange rate. The other strategies are hedging. Hedging involves using financial instruments like options, futures to offset potential losses in the currency fluctuations. And there's what is called netting. I'm sure you've heard of netting. This is where we offset payables and receivables in different currencies to reduce the overall exposure. So you just net off what you owe, what we owe you. Then also leading and lagging. These ones are used in adjusting time of payments, receipts, and to take advantage of the anticipated currency movements. So basically, this is how this question can be handled. This is 25 marks. Are we clear on this? Are we clear on that? Any questions or additions or what have we found? It's clear. All right, so this is the same question. Doing business overseas, we've talked about. Suggest reasons why a private company might go public. What reasons can we give for a private company going public? Max. So I will just give you just any 5 points to that effect. Why should a private company go public? We know the nature of a private company. They are not allowed to trade on the stock exchange. So taking a company which is private to public through what we call an IPO, initial public offering, can be significant. It will provide a number of advantages and opportunities. So number one, access to capital. So you know that these ones sell their shares secretly. So if you go public, you're going to allow the company to raise substantial capital from the public market, providing access to broader investor base and potentially increasing the company's financial resources. Number two, liquidity for investors or the founders. So going public give an opportunity for early investors or the founders or the employees to sell their shares, offering liquidity and ability to realize revenue from the investment. So when you're going public, you're going to give the opportunities for these employees who are there to be the first buyers. You offer liquidity and ability to realize value for their investments. Thirdly, enhance corporate profile and credibility. So a company that is public has a higher credibility in the market. So it will lead to increased brand recognition and influence. The other reason could be increased publicity and public relations. So when you go public, you generate increased public media attention and also provide opportunities for the company to showcase achievements. The other advantage is also acquisition currency. So publicly traded stock can be used as currency for potential acquisitions. So where companies want to acquire debt finance, companies will use shares to acquire even equity finance, to also acquire shares from other companies through mergers and acquisitions. So it gives them power in that way. Employee incentives. So publicly traded companies can also offer employee stock options and other equity-based compensation, which can help attract and retain talented employees. So to align their interests with the company's interests in the long term. Why should we call public? Public also give the ability to attract institutional investors. So when you go public, you can attract institutional investors like mutual funds, pension funds, which may not have been invested in a private company. Only publicly traded companies who attract institutional investments that can give stability to that company and the shareholder base. So when you have a successful IPO, it will lead to increased market valuation. So the other advantage is valuation and brand recognition. So after the market has been evaluated and added, it will also enrich a company's reputation and its brand image. So this will potentially position that former private company to an industry leader or a prominent player. So these are some of the reasons why a company should go public. Is that clear? Unless there are any additions. We talked about systematic and unsystematic risk the other day. Diversification. So the questions are usually the same throughout, over and over. Corporate governance. Did anyone miss this? This was yesterday, isn't it? What is corporate governance and its importance in managing corporations? What is corporate governance and discuss its importance in managing organizations? Anyone who's there? Okay, so I have another class at 8:30. So corporate governance is simply a system of rules, a system of practices and processes by which a company is directed and controlled. Corporate governance involves balancing various interests of the shareholders, interests of management, interests of the financiers, government. So the primary objective of corporate governance is to ensure that the company operates in an ethical, transparent, and accountable manner while safeguarding the interests of the stakeholders, mainly the shareholders. So the importance of corporate governance in managing organizations is paramount for a number of reasons. Number one, in protecting the stakeholder interests. So corporate governance will help in safeguarding the rights and the interests of the stakeholders, including the shareholders, employees, customers, and the community. It will ensure that their concerns are addressed. Corporate governance will also enhance corporate transparency by promoting transparency in the operations, the financial reporting, the decision-making process itself. Corporate governance will help to build the trust and confidence among the stakeholders, the investors, the general public. Corporate governance is also important for accountability and responsibility. Corporate governance will assist in establishing a framework for holding management and the board accountable for their actions. There's what we call lifting the veil in company law. So by separation of powers and responsibilities, we know that whenever the agents or the managers act on behalf of the owners, they are protected by law because the company is separated legally. But sometimes when they act fraudulently, there's a legal term which is lifting the corporate veil. So directors will be found fiduciary. There's what we call fiduciary responsibility. So they'll be held accountable for their bad actions where they could have acted in the best interest of the company. So corporate governance is also important because it helps to improve operational efficiency. So effective corporate governance structures will help to ensure decision-making process is all aligned with the objectives. It will also help facilitate risk management, which will contribute to the long-term sustainability and the success of an organization. Corporate governance will also attract investment and capital. It will also mitigate risks and compliance. So all these are added in the pamphlets. You could access them. I have end here unless there are any additions or questions.